As a teacher, I always emphasize to my students that reading is a life skill. It's impossible to survive, and more so to thrive, without this life skill. And so today we are going to discuss 4 reading techniques. As a reader, you must be aware of your reading purpose. At first, the teacher may be the one to set the reading purpose. However, you need to mature as a reader, and you need to be able to ask yourself, why am I reading this? When you know your purpose for reading, then you'll be able to choose for yourself the reading technique you need to use to achieve your purpose. You need to know your purpose first before you can choose your technique. There are 4 reading techniques: skimming, reading rapidly for the main points. When we say rapidly, it means quickly. The second is scanning, reading rapidly to find a specific piece of information. The third is extensive reading, reading often for pleasure with emphasis on overall meaning. And the last is extensive reading. It's reading a text for detailed information. Now, I want you to remember that every time you see the word skimming, your goal is to get ideas and main points by reading rapidly or quickly. Now, I believe you are wondering, how on earth am I supposed to skim? How can I read rapidly or quickly, but at the same time, I am trying to get the main points or ideas? Here are the procedures. First, you're going to read the title, subtitles, and subheadings to find out what the text is about. Then look at the illustrations to give you more information about the topic. And then third, read the first and last sentence of each paragraph. And fourth, don't read every word or every sentence. Let your eyes skim over the text and look out for a few keywords. And then continue to think about the meaning of the text. Let's apply the procedures on skimming by looking at this sample website. Again, remember that skimming, we read rapidly to get idea. So basically, in this website, we're just going to look at the pictures and headings. We cannot see any paragraphs here, so we can't read any first sentence or last sentence. Here's the question. Is the website for tutors, learners, or both? Now, let's look at the headings. Okay, so what I see here is that you have your heading for tutors. And then I also find here adult learning. And I also see this subheading, find a course. Okay, so is the website for tutors, learners, or both? The answer is both, as evidenced by these titles, and we have here subheading. Let's look at the pictures and headings, and the question is, what's the purpose of this website? So you see, this question is really asking us to get the idea of this whole website. Okay, so of course this doesn't look YouTube where I can post videos. This doesn't look like Facebook where I can update my friends about my whereabouts. Now, the purpose of this website, let's look at the headings and pictures. And remember, in the previous question, this website is for tutors and learners. So the purpose of this website, this is to provide resources. You have your resources, resources for the learners and the tutors. So you have these things. So these are all resources. And here we have this one, adult learning, tutors about skills wise. Okay, English and math for adults. This is to provide resources for tutors and learners. Now let's review how we did skimming. We read the title, subtitles, and subheadings so that we can know what the text is about, and also looked at the illustrations or pictures. I also have to read the first and the last sentence of each paragraph, but since it's the interface of a website, we cannot really read the first and last sentence of each paragraph. And again, as you can see while I was looking at the website, my pointer shows that I'm not reading every word. So that's basically what we're doing with skimming. We don't read every word. We're just looking or skimming over the text to look out for keywords. And as we look out for keywords, we are continuing to think about the meaning of the text. Now we have a paragraph here. The question is, how will you describe the Pacific garbage patch? Let's apply the procedures we discussed earlier. First, look at the title. So here's the Pacific garbage patch. Then there are no subheadings. Let's look at the picture rather. Okay, so here's the picture of the Pacific garbage patch. Now, let's read the first sentence. Did you know that water currents in the northern Pacific Ocean capture a huge amount of garbage? And then the last sentence. People also consume fish that have eaten microplastic, exposing them to harmful chemicals found in some plastic products. This first sentence matches the picture here. So I would describe the Pacific garbage patch as a huge amount of garbage carried by water currents in the northern Pacific Ocean. Here, as you can see. The next question is, why should readers be concerned about the Pacific garbage patch? So again, we're just going to redo the procedures. The Pacific garbage patch, here's the title, then here's the picture, so we can see here plastics from different kinds of garbage. Let's read the first sentence. Did you know that water currents in the northern Pacific Ocean capture a huge amount of garbage? And here, people also consume fish that have eaten microplastic, exposing them to harmful chemicals found in some plastic products. Okay, so with those two sentences, I can already have this overall idea that I should be concerned about the Pacific garbage patch, because here we have seen here that it's a huge amount of garbage. The word is huge amount of garbage. And then the fish eat the microplastic from this garbage. And the fish in return are exposed to these harmful chemicals. And it's not just the fish that are exposed to these chemicals. It's also the people consuming the fish. That basically covers it. So why I should care about this is because our environmental negligence will just backfire on us. Now that we practiced how to do skimming, let's know about the practical application of skimming. So I have here an example. Practical application of skimming. Suppose you are taking a presentation skills class and have to deliver an oral report in a few days about the first computers ever made. You locate 6 books and 4 newspaper articles about this topic. Because you must be ready soon, you do not have time to read each word, but you need a large quantity of solid information. Skimming will help you to grasp the ideas quickly while making sure you use your time wisely. It will also increase the amount of usable material you obtain for your research. Just imagine if you're going to read all 6 books and you are going to read all 4 newspaper articles and you are pressed for time. That's a situation you don't have enough time. You must be ready soon. Now, how to skim with books. What you're going to read when you're skimming books are the table of contents, the introduction, and then the first few sentences. You're going to ask yourself, is this the book I'm going to use for my research? And if this book does not pass, then you can just set it aside and then go over to another book and decide if this book is talking about first computers ever made. The same way with the 4 newspaper articles. If the ideas of the for newspaper articles are not about first computers ever made, then you don't have to use them for your research. Contrary to skimming, scanning is reading rapidly to get specific information. That's what I always want you to remember. You scan to get details. You don't scan to get ideas. How are you going to scan? You will let your eyes to move quickly across a page until you find what you're looking for. And you're also going to use clues on the page, such as headings and titles, to help you. If you're reading for study, start by thinking of or writing down some questions that you want to answer. Doing this can focus your mind and help you find the facts or information that you need more easily. Many texts list things in alphabetical order from A to Z. These include everyday materials such as the phone book or indexes to books and catalogs. You may be thinking, hey, skimming and scanning have the same procedures. But again, let's go back to the purpose. The purpose for skimming is for you to get main ideas or main points. But for scanning, your purpose is to get specific information. Let me remind you again that you use reading technique based on your purpose. So it's really useful that you yourself as a learner know what your purpose is. I have here the same website interface, but our purpose is to scan for details. Here we're going to look for specific words or phrases. The question is, what subjects can you learn from this site? Okay. Very fast. Headings, English, Maths. So you have here in English, reading, writing, spelling, word grammar, sentence grammar, speaking and listening. Then for Maths, you have your numbers, calculation, percent and fractions, measuring, shapes, graphs. The same, we're going to scan for details. We're going to look for specific words or phrases. The question is, where can you go to find resources? Okay, let's look at the headings. Okay, here. Maybe search. Okay, find resources. Oh, here. Quick resource finder. So here we're just going to type a keyword. Or we can just tick a box. Or maybe we can just click this part, more search options. So definitely, we can go to Quick Resource Finder to find resources. So see that scanning. Okay, we have the same paragraph. Let's read the title, The Pacific Garbage Patch. Okay, what's the question? What are 2 ways microplastic can hurt animals or people? We have to think about keywords. Okay, so here I am just going to scan people. How can it hurt people and animals? Okay, so here we find it. Fish and other creatures like sea turtles and birds think microplastic is food. So they eat the microplastic, and this can choke them and poison them and affect their ability to reproduce. Now for people, when we consume fish, we are also exposed to the harmful chemicals found in some plastic products. So guys, while I was looking for the answer to this question, I am not reading every word. I am just letting my eyes scuttle across the paragraph. So we have here another question. What is the larger estimate for the size of the Pacific Garbage Patch? Okay, so the keyword is, we're looking for the size. Larger estimate. Okay, I saw this suddenly, so I already had this. When I saw this 700,000 square kilometers, I already had the gut feeling that maybe this is the answer. Okay, now let's read it. Some reports estimate that this area known as the Pacific Garbage Patch covers 700,000 square kilometers, while others say the area is as big as 50 15 million. Okay, so this is the answer. 15 million square kilometers. Wow, this is so big. The patch is so big, so this is the answer. So I thought this is the first answer, but a good thing I saw this quickly. So because I'm thinking, okay, it's looking for size, so I'm going to look for a number, and I saw this instantly. And then, so I read the whole sentence, not the entire paragraph, just a sentence. And then saw that the answer, the detail that I should be looking for is this. 15 million square kilometers. Wow. This specific garbage patch is bigger than my country, the Philippines. Now, aside from scanning and skimming, we also have the reading technique, extensive reading. And remember that the definition for extensive reading is, this is reading for pleasure. So whenever we say this extensive reading, we have to associate this with enjoyment. So what kind of reading materials you read for pleasure? Now, if you're going to ask me, I really love to just read short stories and poems, and also I enjoy reading some blogs about skincare. So that definitely gives me joy, reading about those stuff. How about you? Think about the things you're reading to make you happy. I have students who read novels, but honestly speaking, I'm not good at reading novels. I don't have the stamina to read novels. Now, for intensive reading, let's always think that intensive reading, we have specific learning aims. I guess some of you are going to think, oh, okay, intensive reading is the boring one. But actually, even though intensive reading is not for pleasure, it is for increasing knowledge. This is still helpful for you to thrive and survive in this world. Just think about it. What could be the specific learning aim in reading a math textbook? So I'm reading a math textbook. Perhaps you would like to know how to solve. I am not so sure if I'm saying this right. If you want to solve polynomials and binomials, I was never really good at math. I tried to borrow math textbook, but to no avail. I borrowed from the library, but I couldn't understand it. But my specific learning aim that time when I was reading that math textbook is to be able to solve problems in contemporary math. What could be the specific learning aim in reading a science laboratory experiment? Perhaps it's to know the procedures and how to conduct the laboratory experiment, or we want to know if the hypothesis match the result of the experiment. What could be the specific learning aim in reading a research paper? When you're doing research, you need to read several research papers in order to know which ones are you going to include in your review of related literature. Maybe you're wondering what are the benefits of intensive reading. So here we go. It develops critical thinking, analytical skills, along with improving reading skills, vocabulary, and grammatical knowledge. What I love about intensive reading personally is that it hones critical thinking and analytical skills, and they're very important because not everything that you read is true and reliable. With critical thinking, it allows you to evaluate if the author is credible to talk about the topic. Is there any bias? Is there any tendency to lean on this side of argument rather than investigating both sides before arriving to conclusion? What I love about intensive reading is that the skills developed through that kind of reading make a person become an active reader, not a passive reader who just passively accepts every information. There is scrutiny and criticism of every information. Though extensive reading is reading for pleasure, this is actually very helpful. I personally believe that extensive reading is the gateway for a person to be immersed in intensive reading. Benefits of extensive reading. Though this type of reading leans on enjoying reading, this is actually the type of reading that develops general reading skills and intensify motivation in reading. When you develop these general reading skills and motivation from extensive reading, it will prepare you for more demanding reading skills in intensive reading. These are the references I used. And I want to show you this Bible verse. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That's from Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 to 7. Thank you for hanging out with me. I am Laramay S. Bardon. I am a junior high school teacher at Camarines Sur National High School. That's from Naga City, Camarines Sur, Philippines.